Today, let's talk about confirmation bias and how it affects you financially or your financial growth, right? Most people don't lose money because they don't understand finance. Far from it, right? They lose money because they understand just enough to stop questioning themselves. In school, we are taught concepts like time value of money, risks and return, cost benefit analysis. These are all taught in the classroom. And yet, people who learn these ideas still miss obvious financial gain, sometimes for years. Today, we are not talking about ignorance, we are talking about confirmation bias and how it quietly sabotages people who think they already know what they are doing. The first thing, the illusion of I learned this already or I already know this, right? One thing about money is that if you think you know enough, it creates something dangerous, which is called the false closure. Once you have passed the exams, your brain assumes that I understand investing, I understand risks, and I understand or I know how this works. The moment you begin to think that you know enough about money, from that moment, learning becomes selective. And anytime you see a video like this, when it talks about money and how to invest, you quickly swipe because you think you know enough. Stay here, stay with me, and you understand why this is happening and how to maximize the output from this. You don't look for what challenges your thinking any longer, right? In terms of money, because you look for what confirms it. You are always looking for what confirms it. And so, let's say, whenever you hear about investment and then there is a failed in investment, it confirms that, yeah, I was right, I didn't invest because you are looking for a confirmation of what you already know because you probably heard that investment is risky. And so, once you get one news that supports your idea, you are already good to go and continue living your life without doing the right thing to build your finances and become financially free in the near future. Now, that's not intelligence if you really begin to think like that, but it is something that looks like psychological autopilot. You have psych up your mind and you are on autopilot mode, looking for what confirms what you already know, and you are not looking to challenge what you know, right? Now, what confirmation bias actually does. Confirmation bias isn't about being wrong, right? If you're confirming that investment is risky and just to keep you more grounded that this is why I don't want to invest, it doesn't make you being wrong, but it's about filtering reality, right? It's filtering reality out of whatever you know. Okay. So once you believe that stocks are risky, business is unstable, property is rather safer, and you have slow and steady is always better, right? Immediately you begin to think about these things, your brain starts ignoring counterexamples, right? Because if you say stocks are risky, your brain begins to stay with that consistent belief and then begin ignoring any counterexamples, discounting new data, any form of thing that opposes what you already know. Your brain begins to kind of discount it and overvaluing familiar narratives, things that you already know, your brain keeps overvaluing them. So when an opportunity appears that doesn't fit in your internal model of thinking, you don't analyze it, you simply dismiss it quietly. That's what you do. So, sorry. The obvious gains people always miss when it comes to investment and confirmation bias. Let's be uncomfortable for a moment. Let's just be uncomfortable for the next minute or two. Just give me that. Many people are taught compound interest. If nothing at all, you've learned compound interest in your elementary school, in your high school, mathematics, if nothing at all, you've learned about compound interest. And still, these people who have learned about compound interest keep their money in savings account and losing value to inflation. Why? Can you answer? You've learned about compound interest, right? And you know how it works. But still, your money is in the savings accounts and you're losing value to inflation. Why? It's simple because their mindset is built in such a way that they think that one, at least, is safe, right? Your money is something that is safe. At least that's what responsible people do, because you are told that saving is good. And so that's what responsible people do. I don't want to risk it. You don't want to risk your money. And so it's sitting there and you're losing value to inflation. Those aren't financial arguments, right? They are beliefs seeking validation. So you believe that um, investment is risky. Therefore, I'll keep my money in a savings account where it will be losing value to inflation, right? Confirmation bias makes doing nothing feel intelligent. So instead of investing or learning how to invest, you sit idle, and with your confirmation bias mindset, it feels like you are the most intelligent person in the room. And the cause of that, it doesn't show up immediately. It shows up 10 years later. Years to come, you begin to regret your decisions. Now, let me give you another uncomfortable situation. Why education makes this works? Why the most educated people are usually the people struggling when it comes to investment? Why? Here is the uncomfortable truth. Basic financial education can increase overconfidence. Yeah. When you have little knowledge, it's not just even about finance. When you have little knowledge about anything at all, it usually creates or causes overconfidence. And overconfidence, will let you have a lot of blind spots that you don't notice. Now, when you know just enough about investment or about money, you stop asking better questions, you stop testing assumptions, you stop recalibrating. You rely only on outdated frameworks in a changing world. Now, these educated people are good at defending or justifying their decisions or their actions, and therefore keep confirming their bias and never makes the right move when it comes to enhancing their financial literacy and creating wealth for themselves. So instead of adapting, these educated people, they defend the law. Not because you are lazy, but because your brain is trying to stay consistent. Now, in all these scenarios, we give you value for your time. So how do you escape this trap? How do you escape this trap? Escaping confirmation bias doesn't start with learning more. You can learn and learn and learn, but because you have a model already ingrained in you for years, you are likely looking for something that confirms your beliefs. So learning more isn't the way out, but it starts with disagreeing with yourself. Begin to ask yourself questions. Begin to disagree. Begin to listen to other people. Get other opinions. High performing decision makers, right, do this differently. Okay, they actively seek discomforting evidence. If you are always looking for something that is comforting enough, something that confirms your belief, you will never make that breakthrough. So to leave this track, you have to ask, what would prove me wrong? What would justify that what I'm doing is the wrong thing? Until you are able to justify that thing is, there's no way of proving it wrong, then it means you have to keep searching for something that will prove you wrong. And that is where you begin to analyze, have opinions and different ideas about the decisions that you make. Okay, so the smartest investment aren't the people that are confident. No, they are people that are calibrated, right? Now let me give you the last bit of this video. The problem of learning basic financial management, right, isn't the cause of how one is stuck in terms of financial breakthrough. The problem is believing that learning ends when understanding begins. That is where the problem is. The problem is when you begin to believe that now that I have passed my exams, I understand what investment is, I know stock, I do this, that basic stuff, and then you stop learning because you think you've understood enough. That is where the problem is. The knowledge doesn't protect you from bias. Knowing doesn't protect you from bias. In many cases, it actually hides it. If this made you uncomfortable, that is good. If this video actually made you uncomfortable, it's a good sign that discomfort is where better decisions start. Right? When you are broke, when you spend all your money, that's where you begin to think wisely. When you're in a discomfort situation, you begin to sound very sound, and then no pun intended, but that is the truth. When you are in a discomfort situation, better decisions come out of you, right? Thank you for watching this video. If this was helpful, share with your colleagues, subscribe, like, leave a comment about a situation where confirmation bias is actually the main cause of your stagnation in terms of financial breakthrough. Risks pays, but takes responsible risks. Thank you.